Hey y'all, Stephanie with Minimalist Mom Life. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video for you guys about marriage in the little years. And when I'm starting this, I'm not really sure what I'm going to call it, but I kind of wanted to just encourage you guys and myself, preaching to the choir here, about sustaining our marriages and loving our husbands well when we have our hands full of babies and our life is kind of crazy. In these early years of marriage, when we're having babies and we've got lots of littles running around. So I have just a whole bunch of notes. So this may not go in any great, super organized, fancy order, but hopefully it's an encouragement to you guys. I shared in my video, the Raw Mom Tag, that one of the things I felt wasn't talked about enough with moms is how important our marriages still are when we are moms and have our hands full. And so I am no marriage expert. I will have been married to my husband 5 years this coming November. So it's not like I've been married for 50 years and have some sage wisdom or anything, but I have stuff that has encouraged me and hopefully it will encourage you as well. And I seriously encourage you guys to leave what works well for you guys in the comments down below so that we as a little community can learn from each other and encourage each other to love our husbands really well and support our marriages. So I had Lucy down for a nap, but there is a really high chance, I think I say this in all my videos, that she is going to wake up and be a part of this. But we'll see how far we can get before that happens, because that's always a distraction to me, and I'm sure it is to you guys a little bit too. So, yeah, I don't really know how to, if I should, I've numbered these kind of, but I'm going to go off on tangents as well. So let's just get started. It's just like you were sitting, I'm literally sitting at my dining room table. So it's like you're sitting at my dining room table and we're just going to have a talk about this. So I think first I'll go through just kind of the tips I have. So things that I think are just important when you are trying to maintain that your marriage is more important than your children, which is something that I believe. You are a family before you have kids. If you don't have kids yet, but you are trying or thinking of getting into that phase, you are still already a family. And one of the things I would say on that is if you don't have kids yet, or if you've just had your first baby, is make good habits now. I think when you first get married, the habits that you make as a couple then are going to either work through when you have kids or they're not. And so you don't want to wait until you have kids to make good habits as a family, as a couple. Start immediately when you get married. It's a fresh start for your own life. If you want to lose weight, if you want to get your finances together, if you want to start hiking, if you want to start new hobbies, do it then and then make those habits so that when as life changes and you add children in, you can keep those habits there and just tweak them to add in, obviously, your growing family. So one of the things is I think it's so important to always kiss your husband goodbye and always kiss him hello. And I just think that people in marriage books are like, oh, kiss your husband in a way that makes him want to not leave and all of this stuff. And that sounds really great. In the morning when I'm getting 4 kids ready to get out the door to take my oldest to preschool, and my husband is leaving and everything is going on, everybody needs teeth brushed and diaper changes and milk and scrambled eggs and all of that, that's just not going to happen. But I can definitely make sure that I take a second to say goodbye to him, tell him to have a good day, and he usually cracks a joke as he's leaving. And yeah, just to give him that. And I think that's even important for our kids to see. And when my husband comes home, I do try to make it Daddy's coming home, we're excited about it, the kids are excited to see him. We maybe pick up the house really quick of toys. It's an easy way to get the kids to want to pick up because we're excited Daddy's coming home. And then be somewhat ready for him. There are days when I am able to get lipstick on again or perfume, because I love to wear perfume every day, stuff like that. But there are days when that doesn't happen. But even if that doesn't happen, I can still be excited to see him. And honestly, moms, aren't we all excited that our husband is home because he gets to help with the kids? It doesn't hurt that we also love him and he's our husband and all that stuff. But then I also try when he comes home not just to kiss him, but to be ready to listen to him. And that is hard when you have kids because they're excited to see him too and they want his attention. But we try for the first few minutes for me to be able to hear a little bit about his day, hear a little bit about my day, and the kids are being held by him. That's usually if I usually give him a snack during that time because he usually wants a snack when he comes home from work. And then I start dinner, whatever the day looks like. Because some days he meets me at the gym and I go to work out right away, so it's a very quick kiss and I'll talk to him when I get home. But I do try to always make sure I kiss him hello and kiss him goodbye. The second thing that has really helped us in keeping our marriage in focus when we have little kids is that my husband calls me on his lunch break. almost every day when he takes his lunch, he calls me, and it is such a nice check-in, not only for me to feel like he wants to talk to me still, but so that we can communicate really well, because I don't always remember everything that's gone on during that day when he comes home at 5 o'clock, but when we check in at noon, it's like, okay, did you get an email from something that you need to do at church? What does it look like for this evening? Are you meeting me at the gym? Am I going to the gym today? How are the kids doing? How is behavior going? Because obviously he is the other parent and he's not with them all day, so he doesn't always know. And by the end of the day, I may have forgotten things that happened or things that the kids said, things that I want him to talk to with the kids about, all of that kind of stuff. So it's nice to have that midday check-in just for communication. And then it also is nice because your spouse is prioritizing talking to you. Above like coworkers, other people that he could be talking to, he's taking the time to talk to you. And usually his lunch break is around the time I've just gotten the kids down to nap, so I can actually sometimes have my lunch break with him. Sometimes he's calling me during crazy times, and I talk for 5 seconds and say, I'm sorry, honey, I have to go. Somebody has to go to timeout or whatever. But it's still nice just to have that call-in check-in. So if your husband can do that, or if you can call them during their lunch, I think that's super beneficial. And then this is an obvious one, but date nights. And for us, what that looks like right now is, and has, I guess it's been this way since Martin was 7 months old, I want to say, and we went on dates prior to that, but when we really committed to, we will do 1 date a month forever until we can get more dates, until they're older. We get a babysitter, or we switch with our friends, and we watch their kids one night, they watch our kids one night, and then it's free, it's awesome. And we go on a date night out, and we budget for that because, again, that is a priority. Our marriage is a priority even in our budget. It's not a big budget, but, we can go out to eat or go play tennis. We've gone paddleboarding, different things like that. We do that once a month, and we both look forward to date night so incredibly much. For both Jason and I, quality time is one of our top love languages, and so we really need that time together where we have 4 kids under 4, and so where someone is not needing us. And that is Lucy. Hold on one second. Okay, so I've got little Lucy back with me. So one date night out is important to us because, like I said, quality time is high up on both of our love languages. And having lots of little kids around, it's hard, again, to communicate when they're all around. Like at the dinner table already, our kids are very verbal. We have a 3-year-old, 2 2-year-olds, and then Lucy. And so they are talking and chatting and wanting our attention at dinner and needing their food cut and needing a lot of things. So that's not really a time that we get to talk. So it's good to have a date night. The other thing that we do is, besides like the 1 date night a month where we're actually going out and doing something together or going to dinner, is that we try 1 to 2 times a week to say, okay, after the kids go to bed, it's just you and me. And usually that just involves watching like I Love Lucy or something like that, maybe something on the Food Network on their website because we don't have cable. And just enjoying one another and just relaxing together. A lot of times we eat ice cream then and just spend time with one another. So we're not on phones and stuff, snuggling, all of that good stuff. So date night's going to look different, I know, whatever season in your life, whether or not you live close to family, if they can watch the kids, if you can afford a babysitter, all of those things. I would encourage you in your budget. One of the things that Jason and I have talked about before is we want to be saving for retirement, we want to be saving for a future adoption and all of these other things and trips, but what is really, really important is that our marriage is healthy. And so it won't matter if you have $1 million in your 401k at 50 if your marriage is falling apart and you're getting a divorce because you didn't focus on it. So make sure that you're making your marriage a priority across the board with your time, with your budget, all of those things, even in these crazy years with little kids, because they will grow up and you'll be left with who you married. So some of the things that I think are fun to do on date nights or in general with your spouse, whether it's, when you're having out date night or at home, is reminisce together. Like talk about what you thought the first time you saw him, if you remember that. Talk about your love story with one another. I think it sparks such a sweetness to think about how you have grown up together and the years that you've had together and how things have changed and how you felt when you were dating, about one another, all of those things. Those stories don't get old because they're your story, and there's nothing like hearing your husband say what he thought on your first date and laughing about when you knew he was the one and all of those things. I think reminiscing together is really great. But then also plan for the future. Dream together. This is who you're going to spend your future with. This is who you're going to grow old with. So what do you want that to look like? Ask the questions of your husband that you asked when you were dating to get to know him. because he, just like you, is forever changing. His dreams, his desires may be different. So it's always fun to hear those. My husband loves to ask, if we won the lottery today, which I think the lottery is so stupid, but if we won the lottery today, what would be the first thing that you would do? That's one of his favorite things to dream about and talk about. And we'll say, like, okay, if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would we go? Dream together, like get to know each other. And some of those dreams may become your plans, and then that'll affect your budget, and that'll affect how you do things. And those are exciting things to plan together. So dreaming together, thinking of the future together, and reminiscing, I think, are all wonderful things, especially when you have little kids and life can be so in the moment. You're changing diapers, you're waking up at night, you're nursing, you're dealing with timeouts and all of these things. It can be so nice to kind of escape that and remember what it was like when you didn't have that as your everyday and you were carefree and young and had time to do your hair and go on all these fun dates, or thinking of the future, you know, the things that you are budgeting for and planning for. So while you may be saying no to 15 things today, it's so that you can go to Hawaii with your husband, or a cruise, or whatever it is you guys are planning to do together. So those are some fun things. Along those lines, I think keep your wedding photos out. Keep photos of when you're dating out. So in our bedroom, we have my gallery wall, that if you watched up my cleaning videos, my room tour you've seen, we have an engagement picture out that we both love. And then we have photos from when we were very, very first dating, like our first month of dating. And it's so fun to just remember kind of who he was and who I was and why we fell in love and how we're in love now. And I think wedding photos are great. Just remembering even like what I vowed to him that day, how excited I was to marry him. So as I'm putting his laundry away, or as I'm asking him every single night, is this clean or dirty, Jason, because you just put it on the floor, I'm also seeing those photos that remind me that I so desperately wanted to be the one doing that. I wanted to be the one that got to be married to him and be his wife and care for him and love him for the rest of my life. So I think keeping those out. Plus, girls, we felt pretty on our wedding day. We felt pretty when we were dating them, and we were all dressed up in those pictures. And sometimes when you're in the thick of motherhood and you're not getting to take care of yourself as much, you can lose a little bit of that. But you are still that girl. You are still that person. I think that can be a nice memory of it. Along those lines, and loving your husband, take care of yourself still. That doesn't mean, I know we don't have time for like spa days and getting our nails done and all of this stuff, but do a few things that make you feel pretty. I don't remember who I heard say it, but it was some quote that was like, we don't flirt when they look good, we flirt when we look good. So if you want to feel better about enjoying your husband and having fun with your husband and flirting, take a little time to take care of yourself and you'll probably feel more like it. The obvious one for loving your husband in the little years is making time for intimacy. I'm not going to go super into that on here, but it is incredibly, 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 incredibly important that you make time for that. If you are a believer, then you understand that even the Bible commands that we give ourselves to our husband and our husbands to ourselves unless we're taking time for prayer. And I'll have some scriptures down in the description box below that I'm kind of referencing. But it is really, really important. And I think my husband and I have talked about this, that I think that intimacy, and I think we even heard this in premarital counseling, but it's a good way to gauge how everything else is going. And while yes, it does take energy, maybe you need to stop doing some other things in order to have time for that with your husband. So maybe everything isn't clean, or you didn't decorate for fall, or you didn't get matching family photos done, or different things. You can cut out other things in your life to make priority what's important. And I feel like intimacy and loving our husbands can fall by the wayside because it's not something we can check off of a list. It's not something we can brag about on Facebook. It's not something that the world is really ever going to see, other than hopefully our marriage doesn't end in divorce. But it's so important to love your spouse in that way and to be loved in that way. You know, it's not just for them. It's a mutual thing. Like everything I'm talking about in making our husbands a priority is really making ourselves a priority, because who wants to be a part of a bad marriage? Who wants to not feel loved? Who wants to not do all of that in the depths of motherhood as well? You don't want that. So make time for your marriage is really also making time for yourself. And Lucy's making the funniest faces in all of these. I'm so sorry. Oh, so funny. So, yes. So make time for intimacy. If there's a reason other than being tired that you're not wanting to have that time with your husband, then that needs to be a discussion you guys have. If you're not feeling loved, if there's other things going on, I think Jason and I have discussed that that's a gauge of that usually. And so sometimes it's a lack of communication. But I have read a lot of stuff on marriage because I just find it fascinating. And I know that a lot of stuff has said that when there is intimacy in the marriage, you tend to even be more patient with your spouse. You tend to be more loving and more forgiving when that is going on. So there's so much tied to why that's still important, even when you have little kids. And yeah, just make time for that. It will do you both a lot of good in your marriage and in your life and in your health. So I think that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's see what else I have on here. Don't keep track. It's really easy. Jason and I once tried with date nights to be like, you plan 1 month, I'll plan the next month. Well, guess what? My husband never planned them, and it would frustrate me. I'd be like, I thought we were going to, and I was keeping track. And it ended up being better for me just to be, because I'm the calendar person, I'm kind of the one that runs like what's going on in our family. He tells me stuff, but I keep track of it all. So I realized that's so silly. It doesn't really matter if he plans the date night. He's going on the date night. He wants to be on the date night. Sure, it would be sweet if he did that every once in a while, but I'm not going to sit here and like wait for that to happen and be disappointed if it doesn't. We're going to go on dates and just enjoy it. Don't keep track of whether or not he's sending flowers or he's writing notes back if you're writing love notes. Just love your husband. It's good for you. It's good for him. But don't create an expectation from it, which is another thing. And this, I don't know that really pertains just to the fact that we're young moms and we have lots of little kids, but one of the things that I struggled with in marriage is, earlier in marriage, and probably still do some, is I've always heard men can't read your mind, so you need to communicate what you want and what you need. Okay, that's great. I can do that, sure. But I would allow that communication to my husband to create an expectation. So if I had told him what I wanted, or I told him what I needed him to do, or whatever it was, or hear from him, or whatever, and then he didn't do it, I had now created an expectation, and I was really disappointed and upset. So part of me was upset that I even had to communicate, which is silly. And then I would get more upset that I communicated, and he didn't do exactly what I wanted the way I wanted it, whatever. So don't allow that to happen. It's very, very important to communicate to your husband. We all know they don't read our minds. We all know that, like, what is it, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Like, we're very different. But don't allow, once you've communicated to him, to become something like, well, I told you, so you should have known that my love language is ... and you're not doing it. Don't start that. But do communicate with your spouse. They don't know. And along the lines of communication, one of the things that I found really important is that we continuously communicate. We can say, okay, his love language is this, or my husband likes this, and then we're doing it, and then it's changed. And the same thing for us, we may not even realize that our own love language has changed. So much changes about both of us when we become parents. We talk a lot about how women, everything changes for us when we become mothers, but our husbands change too as they become fathers, as they have this added responsibility of these little ones, as their wife changes, they change. So continue to get to know your spouse. Don't think that, you know, the way they were when you were dating is the way that they're going to be forever, or what they wanted, or what they liked, anything like that. One of the things that I did right after we had Martin, which is my oldest son, who's about to be 4, is I think he was a few weeks old, and I just felt like every day I could not have the house clean, the baby nurse, a great dinner, myself all cute and done up, and have energy for sex. And so I could do that some days, but it wasn't something I could do every day. And I didn't want to feel defeated. I didn't want to feel like I was losing because I couldn't do all 4 of those things every single day. So I asked my husband, I said, okay, if I could only get 2 of these done, 2 of these 4, what do you want done? What's going to make you feel loved? What's important to you? Because I'm not going to be able to do all 4 every day. And he gave me his answers. And it helped so much because it took off this pressure that I put on myself to be perfect in all the things all the time, and allowed me to be like, okay, then I'm going to get those 2 done 99% of the time. And then I'm going to still try and get all 4 done, definitely, but I'm going to be really happy if I get 2 because I've done what is really important to him. And guess what? What is really important to him is what's really important to me. So that really helped, but that's not a conversation that you can have one time with your first child and think, okay, for the next 60 years, these 2 things are what's important to my husband. I mean, that's a continual conversation. Don't be afraid to ask your husband, do you feel loved by me? Is there something you would like me to be doing? Do you feel respected by me? But don't ask him that expecting him to ask it back. I think that I've done that before, like, oh, I'll ask him how he feels loved, and then he'll know that I don't feel loved, and he'll know what he needs to ask me. Don't do that. But definitely make it an open conversation with your husband that you are desiring, when your hands are full and you're trying to love all these little people, that you do want to love him. You do want to make him feel your love, but that you're not always going to know how to do that. And you may used to have been really good at being intuitive and knowing his needs before he could even express them. But now that you're doing with additional little people, you kind of forget about him unless you're making a conscious effort to check in with him and ask him, are you feeling loved? Are there things that I can do? And I promise it'll make you feel a lot better, because rather than stressing about it or feeling wife guilt that you're not loving him, you can know, okay, this is just what I need to do. And y'all, guys are really, really simple. So talk to your husband, find out what it is that makes him feel loved, and your life will be a lot easier, and you'll be able to love him while also loving all these adorable little people that the two of you have together. So I hope that encouraged you guys. I think that's all I have. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe I forgot a very important one as I look down my thing. But pray for your husband. Pray for your husband when he's not around, and pray for your husband when he's around. Jason and I take turns on who prays before our meal at dinner time. And when I'm praying, I try to always make sure that I'm praying for him in front of him. Y'all, it is such a blessing if you're a believer to hear someone pray for you. And for him to hear me pray for him to lead our family, for him to have the energy and the strength to lead our church, for him to do well at his job, to be able to balance all of these things. And it's a blessing when I hear him pray for me as well. We used to be really good about praying together before bedtime. I'll be honest, we have not done that well since we've had multiple children, but we are trying to get back into that habit, and it is such a blessing to pray together in that way. So pray together, pray for him, and pray for him when he hears you as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, don't forget to leave in the comments down below how you love your husband when your hands are full of little tiny people, things that you have found that work well, or maybe resources that you have liked. I've read several good marriage books and several terrible marriage books. So one that I would recommend off the top of my head is Love and Respect. It's a great book. And Francis Chan's book, if I can remember what it's called, and there's a book by Piper. But I will include those in the description box below, along with some scriptures to encourage you as wives. And please continue encouraging me, and we will love our husbands well. Thanks, guys. See y'all next time.